Well, we are back for some Bleach Soul Resonance, and I think I'd like to take this opportunity to sort of talk about a sort of crunch that is happening, a sort of depletion event as far as, characters go, especially because we have a less hyped character than, someone like Aizen, right? For a lot of people, obviously, as I always say, every character is someone's favorite character. There's someone on Twitter who's literally hasn't summoned on anything because they're waiting for Soifun, right? They're just going to wait until Soifun, and then they're gonna bleach boundary 6 them without any sort of issue because that's their like waifu character, right? That's their favorite character, and why not just full send it on the character you love, right? But with the advent of a character like Grimmjow on the horizon, who I imagine that's the same type of character for a lot of people. Grimmjow is extremely popular. People have a decision to make, which is pull for Grimmjow, pull for what might be on Chinese New Year. One second, let me check when Chinese New Year is. So it looks like really quickly that Chinese New Year is on the 17th of February, which is a big landing spot because this is a game owned and produced by Bilibili, which is a Chinese company, which means we should expect whatever happens on Chinese New Year to be a relatively large-scale character. If this character runs for 3 more weeks, so, going to the 16th, then the 23rd, and finally the 30th, we could sort of see that Chinese New Year ends up being a landing spot for not Grimmjow, but I think the character after Grimmjow, around there, give or take a few days, right? You could argue that maybe Grimmjow ends up being the character that represents that because his event will fall in there. But I would actually say that Chinese New Year, which is an event that stretches from the 17th onward, will fall into another character. So we could be seeing characters like Okiata finally drop. We could be seeing someone like Kenpachi, Vassal Ichigo, blah blah blah, right? Any of these are meaningful. For that reason, we sort of arrive at an issue I'm currently having in Bleach Soul Resonance as a free-to-play player. Because, again, if you see people like Giku or Shine or Rikoga or Rikoge or whatever, it's just like, you understand that, and I'm going through this just to continue to show that I am completely free-to-play. There are no paid Jade here. There's nothing that has been paid at all. But I do want to come down to one thing in particular, which is this right here. So I recently, and you should probably be doing this because you get this from like in excess from just doing gacha. I recently ran out of my con, and I had to buy the 90 here to restore it. The reason I bought it here is because otherwise I would be using so much stamina on con, and as we move over to something like the stamp area, we can see that I now have 999,000. I was down to 200,000 with 0 stamina, right? So buying that out raised me back up majorly. It means that for a bit at least, I don't need to go back into the con stage. I as well got more stamp ectoplasm, and all of that is to say I was essentially down to nothing. And that was all to raise Gin to this amount, right? So not even like exceptional or anything. A modest 22,000, 20% crit rate, which goes up to 35% with his passive. Nothing really, impressive. No crit rate stamp, which would raise him quite a bit more. We got a pretty okay piece of 1-slot gear, which ends up being an 18%, but it did hit defense, which means that I will not be locking this. I will not be ascending this, even though these substats are really good. Same here. We did hit the crit rate here, but we did get a defense stat, and this is not a crit rate. Secondary piece, this is almost good enough, I would say. But yeah, just sadly missed. If it hit double crit rate, I might be tempted to just use this piece forever. But for that reason, we are not locking it. And again, a 10% that we're not ascending because it's just not good enough. And those are my like resources, right? Those are my resources essentially done. Because of that, we sort of need to like be realistic, right? Like, well, what does that mean for me as someone who is trying to put together these characters, right? Especially as a free-to-play player. Well, I'm not like, you know, the low spending or whaling YouTubers. I am completely free to play. So if I run out of, you know, these resources, it's a time sink, right? So we can see here I did get into 777. I'm still waiting. I actually have to do this once this ends. I'll be going into this event to, you know, grab these materials because I had just gotten up, so, you know, my stamina is back. You can see that right around here, my stamina is back, so I can go in there. But beyond that, right, we're still waiting, right? We're still waiting on these materials. We're still waiting on, you know, grabbing this stuff. And it brought to mind that because stamina is a resource that isn't, you know, it doesn't fall like water, and we can see that I am completely out of nourishers, right? I can't use Jade as a free-to-play player. I can't afford to use Jade as a free-to-play player to just pump my stamina, right? I'm not going to do it. Even if it is only, you know, 50 right now, I would rather have that 50 for pulling in the future. So that brings us to the elephant in the room, which is, what are some other reasons that you would want to save? I think people right now aren't considering that one of the biggest reasons is you just don't have enough to raise these characters. And I guess you could say, well, I still want to pull on everything so that, you know, I just have them on my account. And I think one of the nice things about realizing that you can sort of afford to skip characters, and I think Gin is a perfect person to say this with, is that if you already have a built Kaku, which I did, you know, 25,000 is enough. But 25,000 is enough to do content, right? It's enough to do content. I got Gin because I had the excess of, you know, I had the excess of Jade. I've been pretty lucky on my Jade, on my pulls, and Gin is a character that I really like. I said before that if I'm considering that Grimmjow is next, Grimmjow might be the character I end up skipping because I do like Grimmjow. I think Bleach, and I'm going to restate this, I think Bleach, Tite Kubo is just great at making cool characters. I don't really think there are that many, you know, big name characters in Bleach that aren't cool. The women are cool, the guys are cool, anything in between is cool, the monsters are cool, etc., right? So I do like Grimmjow. Just for me, I like him less than someone like Gin, even though that might sound like heresy to a lot of people. I really like Gin. I thought he was, you know, he was one of my favorite captains when the series first kicked off, right? So all this is to essentially say that, like, this is like a choice I made. I knew that if I had the excess, I would like to pull him. And as we will be getting into more showcasey stuff later, this is just sort of a, if you're on the fence, maybe you skipped the first day of Gin's release and you're just sort of like waiting to see how it falls. I will say that you could definitely find yourself being just starved for that sort of resource. And I don't really hear people talking about it, that this is such like a bottleneck, right? You are going to be sort of starved of like time in the form of stamina. And I think in the case of a gacha, which will just sort of just, you know, we're gonna be progressing pretty fast, you know, going from Aizen. With Aizen, it was easy to make the room, right? In those 3-week periods, it was easy to convince yourself, well, I'm just going to focus on Aizen completely. My Toshido is fine. He's not up to the standard I would like him. But unfortunately for Toshido, why would I focus on him when I could just focus on getting Aizen raised, right? It's easy to make the resources. It's easy to find the resources when it comes to a character as powerful as Aizen, even though you can see there, I still need to do a little work. I mean, look, I still have to do all this, right? But for Aizen, it will get done. I just think that as we sort of get into characters who might be less hype for you, maybe you're just feeling FOMO because people are pulling, you see your YouTubers pulling, and you know, you're like, oh, I want to pull too. I would just remember that you still have characters to raise, you still have characters to really perfect. Like, you don't have to get to the point of my Yoruichi, which, like I said, is mostly being boosted by this core stamp, just being one that I keep getting, and her one boundary. But this is all free to play, right? So it's not like, you know, I pumped for, you know, some mythical standard pulls for getting specifically Yoruichi. I mean, this is still free to play, but it's a character that I've put a lot of time trying to get new gear for her in, right? And one of the bigger things is that it's easy to log in day to day and get stuff like this because it's a set that's in the game. The more they continue to introduce specialized sets like this, the more then that we need to continue to consider that you're going to need resources in reserve just for pulling. I spent most of my stamina and most of my nourishers yesterday just trying to get decent of this new set, right? I could easily have just put him on, you know, something, well, not like this, but, you know, something like this or something, right? But it's very obviously that this set was made for him, and in time we'll see numbers, we'll see if people, you know, go this way, that way. But what I'm saying essentially is that, you know, it's hard to find the resources if we're going to get things like new sets. If we're going to, and I expect to get some Adankar based sets eventually, at least, where, you know, as we sort of go through, like, oh, this is the Quincy set, this is the Adankar set, I expect to get sets that specify character types. We still don't have an Adankar in game. We don't know what they're going to do. Like, maybe there's going to be a way they're put on teams that is like, you know, maybe it's not as simple as like, oh, this is like a Shinigami, so, you know, you can put them wherever. Maybe we might end up in a position where like certain character types want certain teams, and that just is what it is. That'd be a way to sort of if you guys have ever played the Kimetsu no Yaiba, you know, Demon Slayer arena fighter, where if you play one of the demons, the team structure is different than if you play one of the slayers, right? We could see something like that. There are a lot of what ifs that are just here in the future, and until we sort of get there, we don't know where these resources should continue to go. But at least for my money, as I'm, you know, getting these characters, I'm like, man, I just do not have the stamina to like get all these skills and then like level up the weapon, get all this weapon experience, you know, and then, you know, get all this ascension experience, and then get all these stamps. For now, all of my energy is going to continue to go into stamps until we get what I find reasonable. What would I find reasonable? They don't need to be 30'd because most of your stamps will not be 30'd, but I would like some stuff I would like to take to 25 at least. So this can stay for a long time. This is just enough. This I would like to see a crit rate, or I would like to see crit hit on this. I guess we could press it. Nah, I mean, it's just not worth it. I want crit rate here. At least until maybe we see that, hey, maybe attack percent is the best thing for him on this second piece. But for now, let's see what they recommend. For now, yeah, it makes sense. Ailment damage over crit damage is interesting. But for now, like, it's just good enough. And then let's go here. And then, yeah, we want a replacement here. So it is what it is, man. Like, this is sort of the bottleneck. This is sort of the constraint. If you are playing regularly, playing actively, and you do have leftover resources, don't buy, like, you know. Sometimes I grab these. You can see I have 3 of those. Oh, and I'm waiting. Not here. Ticket stub exchange seems pretty free to grab, like, the gold and stamp ectoplasm. You will usually just make up the remainder and get the limited tickets no matter what. It's not a hard thing to get. But some of the bigger stuff just ends up being a lot of these specialized resources. Sadly, though, if you're not in a top guild, it is really hard to get the Koban, to get all of this, and then to get in stuff like this, right? To get, you know, there's 200 here. This material isn't really that important. You get a ton of it. This material is not really that. I mean, it would be nice to grab those, but yeah. I think that is my sort of current deduction. You can see I grabbed all of this. All right. Yeah. I hope hearing me ramble about this it doesn't have to be enlightening, but is interesting. But yeah, the rush to continue to grab certain things is slowing down for me. And as we see Grimmjow make his appearance, you know, sort of appear on the horizon, I am definitely feeling that, like, all right, let me pull back. Let me actually decide that I need to skip something. Maybe Grimmjow will just be such a good strike character that in 3 weeks I reconsider. But for those, especially those people who aren't like, you're just playing casual, you're not, making content around this game. I am in a particular position where it serves me to at least try to get these characters so I can showcase a free-to-play version of them for you guys. That way, when you make free-to-play decisions, or low spending, you'd be low spending and watch this channel. That way, when you make decisions based on low spending or free-to-play, you have at least an optic of like, hey, here's Geen. This is what Geen looks like when he's completely free-to-play, right? Which we'll be doing a showcase, the video after this one. I'm going to record it right after. So, yeah, that's a thing. I hope this sort of informs anyone who's still looking to pull or not, or, looking for a reason to skip, that if you still have characters you're working on, finish your characters. Finish your characters. Finish your characters. Ryodoichi is finished. The only thing I can do on her right now is I could ascend this stamp, would be fine. I could ascend this stamp. This stamp would be really good if I ascended it. I want to replace this stamp, but there's not really a rush. It hit 3 defense, which is so bad. And because like crit damage or attack percent would have been crazy, even if it hit once. But because it hit 3 defense, this piece is done. This piece I also raised very early. So I'm not really regretting this because this was during the launch of the game. I didn't know any better, right? I was just trying to get the characters done so that I could, farm content. But Aizen, I have nothing to do with Aizen. I could raise this. I could raise this to 30 easily. This would be a pretty good 30 piece, and I might. This is already a 30 piece. This is a 30 piece. Like, Aizen's gear is done. I can do no more. The only thing I can do with Aizen, finish off his skills, which is, whatever. Or, sorry about that. Or I could... What is it? If I get his core stamp, right? But for now, I'm done. Aizen's, like, done. Toshido, I need to come back on. Yurahara, I don't really need to be that much better. He has 175% crit damage and some ultimate charge rate. He's done. He's never going to hit for 1 billion, right? He has his core stamp. He has his weapon stamp. His gear, I could awaken it, but he's a support. Why am I awakening his gear? You know what I mean? Like, he's done. He's a done character. So, as you can see, like, Toshido, my Toza needs so much work. Ikaku was essentially quote-unquote done for my preferences, and then Byakuya and Komomura are characters I endlessly need to work on. They've sort of been relegated to the back, right? Like, adding another character means that I need this much more stamina to raise him, and that's how you should be looking at this. That's how I think you should be looking at this, is that if you're looking for a reason to skip, look at your box and go, how many characters do I still need to do? You know what I mean? How many characters are still waiting for me to, finish their various, like, finish up their builds, finish up this, that, in the third, right? So, yep. Long little rant video. Hopefully you enjoyed. Like if you liked the video, subscribe to the club. We all gonna make it, and peace.